Hello, folks. I'm Isaac, and this is my battle sector.
And I'm Claire, and I am looking for Easter eggs.
And this is Make
That Game! Where we pitch the latest,
the greatest
new video game ideas
that aren't ever, absolutely not. These are not going to get made. They're just too wild, folks. They're too crazy.
Good.
They're out there. The AAA game studios would never risk their bank account on what we've got brewing in here.
Okay. All right. We don't want them anyway.
No, we don't. Well, actually, I do.
You do?
I do want their money. I don't know why we wouldn't want their money. Money's money. And
well, maybe we'll discuss that during the question/deep dive section of the podcast.
Okay. All right. There's a little preview for what's coming later. But what's coming right now is I'm going to ask Claire if Claire has a game pitch to pitch to me that maybe today? A studio would buy and pay us money for.
I don't know if a studio would buy this one, but this is more of a vibe check. So for those of you who don't know, vibe checks when we don't really have a fully fledged game idea, but we're still going to pitch it, talk about it, and kind of narrow it down as we go. Which sometimes our vibe checks are like, wait, that was actually a full pitch. And sometimes we're like, that's an idea. And I don't know. That's like a vibe. That's why it's called a vibe check. But yeah. So the game today I was going to pitch is called Create a Date.
Create a Date.
And I was struggling with this one because at first it was kind of similar to the very first game I pitched on the show, which was about basically setting the conditions of someone's sleep. And then
I remember that one.
Like watching it play out to see how that went and then like adjusting. So that it was kind of like that, but like you're setting the conditions of somebody's date and then watching that play out. But then I was like, that's like the same game, just like a different scenario. So then I was like, what if it's like more of an AR game where you're setting the conditions of a real life date? But then it's kind of more like just an app, but like also a game. So the idea is that you would sign up for this and then there would be like different types of users. And so in some sense, like, I guess like different roles you could play. So in some scenarios, you're setting up like conditions of a date and then the person who like signs up for that date has to follow those conditions that are like preset. But then you'd like rate the dates that were created and then like you'd have like leaderboards for like the best dates. I don't know, man. I kind of
like, so this is like a gamified dating app kind of thing. So,
but like more so than Tinder, where like Tinder's gamified because it's all like the swipies. But this is like,
but this is gamified in that maybe it's not so much gamified, but it's like learning because if you tell the app what conditions of the dates that you're going on, and it takes the match that you've got. So you say, okay, with this match, I'm going to go to this place, I'm going to eat this food, etc., etc. This is my plan for the night. It can take the profile of the match that you've made, compare it to similar people, go through the database of like dates that they've rated good and the contents therein of it. And then it can tell you, I mean, ideally, it would not actually tell you, actually. It would just use this as weight metrics for determining like what good dates are, and then it would give that information somehow, because I feel like if the app actively basically told you your plan is crap, you would then, for like this specific person, and then you tailor towards that specific person until you get the perfect date for them. That's not really fair for the other person, right? Because it's not like a date that you would set up. It's a date
okay. I think you've misunderstood a key concept to this. The idea was that random people are designing dates for couples. Like, you're not doing it. And so then after the experience, you both would separately rate your experience, and then that particular date scenario
would be upvoted.
Yeah.
Or downvoted, and then as a user, I did completely misinterpret what we're talking about.
I think that solves for the problem you're talking about, because the idea too would be like from the dater's perspective is it's like, one, you don't have to plan a date, and two, there's not as much pressure if it's good, because you can be like, this is just like planned by a rando.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you'd get to like see it ahead of time, so you wouldn't be surprised, but you have to like, I mean, what the AR version could be that like there's elements to it that you have to like complete. So like you have to take a picture of your pizza, and then AI would be like, "That's a pizza. You like completed the pizza part," or like whatever it is.
So I guess the missing link for me bringing it into game territory is, what do you do? So you complete these tasks for the date, you get points, but then what do you do with those? Like, I understand, like, okay, you create a date, you post it, it gets upvoted, downvoted, may the best date win, like maybe there's like a leaderboard, people enjoyed your date the most compared to everybody else's date. You go into a hall of fame, like that part, I understand gamification. But then like the people who are actually doing the dates, I don't see the gamification aspect for them.
Well, so part of
like
it is
taking
that the
pictures
date,
and stuff.
yeah. So like that makes the date itself gamified, which I think is easier for people than just going to like a restaurant.
I guess, but
Like it's like a
what's the
scavenger hunt.
reward?
Going on a nice fun date? Is that not reward enough for you? Having a good time?
I guess,
Meeting your soulmate?
But then at that point, what do you need to do these things in the app for? Like, if I'm having a nice fun date, I don't need to take a picture of the food.
Well, if you don't, then you won't be able to rate it. If you can't prove that you did it, you can't vote. Because you could just sign up for a date and then like never do it, and then and then also maybe you can get badges, like if you complete, like kind of like Fitbit, like
okay, 100 dates accomplished.
Yeah, or like like maybe if you went on like a certain number of really low rated dates, it's like the like absolute bad dater, like something like that. I don't know. Like there could be fun achievements to unlock that way.
Okay, I could, so like Chivos, putting Chivos in. That's what I call achievements.
Yeah,
I call achievements Chivos. Like, comment, subscribe, and email us if you also call achievements Chivos. Gotta find my kindred spirits out there. Well, that was a great game. Thanks for pitching it.
Great. What about you, Isaac? Do you have a game to pitch to me?
I do. I have a very experimental game idea this week. I don't know how it would actually play out. I would be very interested.
That's the best kind of
Yeah.
game to
It's out there. I can imagine it both being interesting and completely boring drivel. But the idea is that it is like a monster catching, taming, raising kind of turn-based RPG battle game.
So Pokemon.
Like Pokemon with a twist. In fact, I would say it's more like, for those who are familiar with it, and there's only one person that's going to be familiar with it, the Dragon Warrior Monsters side series of the Dragon Warrior games. So the idea here is that you've got all the different monsters. They have different stats. They have personalities. They have magic abilities and whatnot. And you do not directly like pick what they're going to do in battle. Their personality kind of decides that. So like, if you have a berserker monster with a heal spell, it might never choose to use the heal spell just because it wants to always attack. So, and then with different like combinations of like mixing monsters together, you can get different stats, you can get different abilities on them, different personalities, and basically all the battles are automated to a certain extent. So the input that you as the player have is you pick targets for what's happening. So it's not super turn-based, it's more action kind of based. All the monsters have like a speed stat, and you can see like a bar on your screen where it's filling up, so you know which monster is about to act. When it's a monster's turn to act, it's like, who should I target with this attack that I've chosen? Uh-huh. So like a berserker will always choose an attack, and then you say, okay, I want you to attack this. A kind monster, I'm just using personality words here, might always like pick heals or like defensive buffs and never pick attacks if it has access to them, or it might just defend it, like just do a defend and raise its own defense instead of ever actually attacking. So like when its turn comes up and it picks to heal, you have to choose, which one of its allies to heal, and if there's no one that actually needs the heal, it might waste. Or you could always just say, no, to what the monster's AI personality has picked and just completely basically skip their turn. Like they say, I want to heal. And you say, we don't need to heal right now. But then that internally changes its personality where it becomes less likely to use the abilities that you're telling it to skip because it wants to get your approval, basically.
We're looking at a Life is Strange 2 situation.
Yes. Yeah. So the monsters have like their basic personalities, but then they also have some semblance of like learning through battles on like what appeals to you, and they're looking to get approval from you. Unless, here's another twist, they have like a personality type where they don't care about your approval. And then some monsters might super care about your approval, et cetera, et cetera. So like there's a lot of balancing. And then the other thing that I want in this is because it's not super engaging to just sit there, watch bars fill up and like click a button, like
No?
make the choice in there.
Yeah.
If there was only like 3 monsters per battle, like 3 on your side, 3 on the enemy side, it doesn't seem like there's enough going on. So I want you to have like up to like 18, like 12 to 18 different monsters, like a veritable army battling against the enemy team at all times.
I feel like that solves the problem of Pokemon where there's just like not enough Pokemon you can keep on your team. Like I want to get to know everybody. I want to name everybody.
Exactly. And then yeah, you pick the personalities that like your team needs. You're like, okay, I want like 3 healers, so I've got to get 3 monsters with like the heal skills. But I also need those monsters to have a personality that makes them like want to heal. And then there might be a monster who's like inherently super good at healing, but it's very rare for a monster of that type to have a personality conducive to healing. So you have to figure out like what kind of like reinforcement to do, like what kind of combination. I'm calling it combination. In my head, it's breeding because that's a mechanic in these games, but I know Claire hates that. So
it's creepy.
Well,
it's eugenics.
I mean, yes, but it's a video game. This is just how the genre goes.
I didn't know. I mean, is it because I truly didn't know that was part of Pokemon until like last year when Arceus came out and people were talking about it. And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Yes, to get the very best, yes. In the Dragon Warrior Monsters series, which I'm basing this off of, you can take 2 monsters, you put them in the Starry Night Shrine, I think it's called, and they look at each other and it fades to black, and then it fades back in, and both your monsters have completely disappeared, and there's an egg. And then you hatch the egg, and then the egg has, like, the child. But
so they die?
They just disappear. Nobody knows what happens to them. I think it's canonical that nobody knows what happens to them. But anyways, effectively, because of that setup, there's no difference mechanically between like fusing those 2 monsters and breeding those monsters. So we could just call it combining, and we could say in this game you fuse monsters.
Is that worse? I can't tell.
There's no winning with this. There's no winning with this concept. What if they're robots? What if they're robots that you take parts from one? No, but then
I don't want to. I don't want to like let's not rewrite your game. Because also, I mean, on The Sims, like there's theoretically breeding. Like people have babies on The Sims all the time, and I did that.
Do they actually do? This is a side conversation, but do they have like genetics in The Sims?
So yes, well, I guess it's like a light yes. So that's what I was gonna say is like, even though you can breed in The Sims, there's literally no point in doing eugenics type shenanigans because through very simple basic cheat codes, you can edit any physical appearance, you can edit personality. Like there's no, like everything is malleable. So the way it worked in Sims 2, I haven't raised a lot of families in Sims 4, but I think it's very similar where like looks are genetic. So like babies will inherit like certain traits from their parents, but you inherit traits. So like you'll look and because it's a video game, especially Sims 2, it's not like super like high level genetics. Like it'll literally be like that's the exact nose of the dad and the exact hair of the mom. Like it's like not
okay. It does
not
not have
nuance,
that.
no nuance,
Okay.
right?
Good. We hate nuance.
But it is like sometimes there'll be more mom features, whatever. So they have that. That's genetic, but like any type of like personality or like skill, at least in Sims 2, again, like I don't really know as much about Sims 4 in this scenario, but are completely like fresh when the baby is born. And when they grow up, you get to choose their aspiration, which basically defines their personality. In Sims 2 and Sims 4, you have more personality traits, but you get to decide those as the kid grows up, like you as the player select them. So it doesn't really matter who you bred with who, like each child is like a blank slate.
Okay. Yeah.
So it kind of, and I never thought about this before, but this might be game design. I'm wondering if it's even on purpose so that there's not creepy eugenics going on in
that
Sims
might
games.
be.
Like,
yeah, my game idea here is very eugenic-y, very.
I remember. Sorry, can I just tell a funny Sims 2 story really quick?
Let's hit me up with that Sims 2.
So a cat had a kitten, and the kitten was orange, and I named it Pumpkin, and then it grew up to a full-grown cat, and it was black, and it grew up as a black cat.
Oh, interesting.
Pumpkin. And I guess it was just because, like, obviously whenever anything grows up, like some of the features change. Some weird. I don't know. I feel like that was a glitch for sure, but it was like really funny. And I ended up changing it back to orange because, again, you can do that. You don't even need a code to do that. You can just do that.
Oh, wait, really? You can like right click a cat and be like, I've decided you're a different. I dyed your fur.
You basically you click a mirror and then you're like change appearance of cat and then you
oh my God.
Pick up the cat and then
it seems like they took some shortcuts on the programming side to cats are probably internally mostly just a sim with slightly different limitations.
Probably cats and dogs, yeah. I mean, again, that was Sims 2, to be clear, but I'm sure they didn't change much for Sims 4. But yeah, that's the funny thing. So anyway, that was a long Sims detour from your game. I'm sorry, but
no, it's fine.
Ahead.
No, I mean, I basically summed it up. So yeah. There is, I guess, no real way to turn this away from kind of eugenics and / or.
I mean,
if you do the combination, then that's like you pointed out, that's also weird in a slightly different way.
It's okay. It's a video game trope, and like it is just a game, so it's not like we're making actual pugs that can't breathe or whatever. So
that's true.
Although that would be an interesting way to flip flop the story if it's like you breed too much. Genetic problems start to arise.
That is an interesting mechanic to add. So it would encourage players to not go too far, but then it might also encourage them, I've wasted the potential of this one monster parent and now I'm destroying it. I'm throwing it out. Never going to use it again because its offspring are bad. But anyways, is my game idea. I never came up with a name for it.
No, you gotta come up with names.
Eugenics.
No, it's not really. It's like, okay, I have to say, like, it's not really eugenics, right?
No,
like, it's not really that. I was being hyperbolic.
No, yeah. Now, like, the normal thing for this kind of game is to call it like Monster Rancher, Monster Tamer.
Yeehaw, Monster Cowboy.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeehaw, Monster Cowboy. So,
because they're wrangling the cows, which are the monsters.
I mean, actually, so the more I'm thinking about it, the less I'm groaning about it, if you know what I mean. Yeehaw, Monster Cowboy. We'll go with that as a working title. It's a good baseline. It also sets like an aesthetic theme, which I also don't have. If this is the Wild West.
Yes. That's good.
And you've got like Western styled monsters. That's pretty good. That's pretty interesting.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good stuff.
So yeah, Yeehaw, Monster Cowboy.
I mean, all of these are working titles, so like no worries.
Yeah.
All right.
Or maybe it could just Yeehaw, Monster Ranch.
Oh, I like Monster Ranch. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just worried that Monster Rancher, it's a little too close to that, but I
Well,
don't
so
think
yeah,
it is. I don't
Monster
think it
Ranch
is.
sounds like a place, right? Monster Rancher is a person. So I think it's completely different.
Boom. There we go. Yeehaw, Monster Ranch. Let's go. All right, we both pitched ideas.
We did.
We both got those out of our system. We're a little calmer, a little less tense, a little less eager. It's time to have a discussion, a deep, calm, calculated discussion.
Yeah, but I picked the discussion. Easter eggs via why is the game industry so messed up?
But could you clarify the topic?
Sure, yeah. So I just read an article from The Hustle. They did a story on Easter eggs in video games and the first known Easter egg in a video game. Isaac, do you know what that is?
The first known Easter egg in video games? Nope, I do not have any idea off the top of my head.
It was an Atari programmer who put his name in the game Adventure.
Okay.
And at the time, so for other context for this discussion, I've been reading a book. I have it. Is that it? If we ever use that video for this, I have the book. It's Blood, Sweat, and Pixels by Jason Schreier, which is a really good book, by the way. It's just it breaks down the stories of how certain video games were developed, most in the mid to late 2010 to between 2000 and 2000.
The aughts and the tens.
The aughts and the tens. And in reading this book, every workplace seems toxic. Every single video game development, even the one that was developed alone, seemed like a toxic work environment. This just doesn't
Stardew
seem.
Valley.
Yes, this doesn't seem like a healthy experience. Just to be honest. And the reason the Easter egg was invented, Robinette did this because at the time Atari refused to cite who designed games. They were all just put under the name of Atari, but in reality, almost every game was designed by one single designer. They weren't even working on a team. And that designer wouldn't get any royalties for the game. They wouldn't get any recognition in the game. And so Robinette did this, basically it's a secret room in the game Adventure that you can unlock that just says created by Robinette. And that was but that he saw that as a big act of rebellion, as an FU to Atari to say hey, I made this game. And a lot of designers ended up doing similar things as well that are identified in that article, which I can always link in the show notes. So it just got me thinking Easter eggs are this fun, one Easter egg I like that they did an Easter egg run in the Kirby's Kirby Forgotten Land. Sorry.
Yes, yeah.
A different land. The HAL, I guess all the Kirby's games have a HAL room where HAL is spelled out because that's the HAL Laboratories is what would be the design studio? What would that be? Because it's owned by Nintendo.
I'm pretty sure they are the programmers and Nintendo is the publisher. Yeah, HAL Labs is the developer. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they always have a little, which almost, it does also feel very akin to the Robinette in a way where HAL's credited in the credits of the game. It's there. It's not, they're not trying to push it down. But at the same time, they were bought by Nintendo and they're kind of saying this is our game, right?
Yep.
Yep. And now Easter eggs are more just these fun little notes that people leave for the players of the game, which I vastly enjoy, but I was just kind of I don't know, I think that story made me think a lot about video game development and this book that I'm reading. And I don't know, again, this is more of a deep dive than a question, but I guess the question is could you make a video game without emotional damage? Is that possible?
So I hope so. All right. So I think this, so I guess this is stepping away from game design quite a bit. This isn't necessarily game design, but
it is though, right? Because you're designing, if you want to be a game designer, you have to step into this world, right? So how are you going to do that safely?
Yes. So I think part of the problem is that, and I'm not super educated in this, so I'm about to say a bunch of stuff that I will say up front is hot takes, but I look at the movie industry and it has all kinds of unions and rules and regulations that say exactly how people have to be credited, how work happens, et cetera, and it still has problems. It's still pretty bad, but it's had 100 years to develop, whereas video games have not been around nearly that long, and it doesn't even have, I feel, at half as many systems of protection for the people within it, because even though we hit these points of friction with movies, people don't see it as applying to video games in the same way. I feel if there was a lot more like video game designer, artists, etc., unions and companies had to abide by a lot more rules, similar to how like movie production, filmmaking, etc., has to abide by all these rules, I think it would be a much better place. It wouldn't be perfect, just like as we pointed out, filmmaking is also not perfect, but it can be a lot better.
Yeah, I think you bring up a very good point, and the book that I'm reading kind of discusses it too. And comparing it to filmmaking is pretty apt. Like I went to film school, and reading the book, it reminds me a little bit of that too. There is this idea that when you put deadline on a piece of artwork, there's always going to be the crunch. That's how they refer to it in game design. But like, there's always going to be, because the thing with art that's so frustrating from pretty much anything else, like if I'm like, the amount of time you put in does not necessarily indicate the output.
Right.
In the same way, like if I'm building a house, like the amount of time I'm physically building the house will result in the house getting bigger and becoming more built every day.
Yes.
Whereas the amount of time I spent building an art, whether it be like any kind of art, I could look at it the next day and be like, actually, that's terrible, and I have to start from one.
Yes.
And
yep.
if that artwork is due on a specific day, you just get less and less time to get it to the place it needs to be. But like the amount of time you put in doesn't necessarily equate getting to the end point of that artwork. So I think that's kind of what they say is like, that's why there's always going to be an issue. But I love your idea. Folks, this is a pro-union podcast. And like, you are fully right that one thing that keeps filmmaking just a little bit sane these days unions, and the actors union, the writers union. There is
all the production,
union,
the camera staff. Like
I forget what it's called,
everybody
but I knew it
basically has a union.
Yeah.
To the point where isn't it like if an actor like helps the camera guy like move a piece of equipment,
right?
Doesn't like the camera guy get like bonus money effectively?
There was actually a story on TikTok which was so funny, because like you said, it is very delineated out like what jobs you can and can't do. Is like and this was just a joke. This was from like a prop department. I follow a lot of prop workers on TikTok because they're so fun to talk about. But they said once they had a horse on set and the horse pooped on set, and they said, "Can we get props to come clean that up?" And the prop guy said, "Well, until it's done steaming, it's special effects."
See, yeah, I feel like video games need more like that and maybe like the delineation probably isn't as strong if you have like a graphics programmer versus a physics programmer,
right. Well, and
etc.
I think a video game union would be less about like you're not allowed to do multiple jobs. It's more about like adequate compensation.
Yes, that's the
video
most
game companies do
important thing.
pay a lot in theory. Like it depends, but I feel like they also can take advantage, especially of like newbies who are just like excited to be there, right?
The more passionate you are, the more prone to exploitation is part of the problem.
So I think what the union would bring is like pay rates so that like you can't underpay people, paid overtime, which would
eliminate crunch.
Well, it wouldn't eliminate crunch, but it would make crunch less desirable because you have to pay more for it. But then if you do end up doing it, it's more rewarding because not only did you finish the game, but you got compensated for the work in that you put in for that game. And then also I think it's benefits because like I know the adage or like the joke is like, oh, if they have a ping pong table, they don't have good healthcare. Like, I feel like that's kind of the situation. Like,
yeah, there's so many game studios. When I was looking for work when I first graduated college, I applied to a lot of game studios, and like, I never got far enough in most of the interview processes to like learn what their benefits package was, if they even had one. But oh god, so many of them had like ball pits and like arcade rooms and like that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, that is a red flag to me, which I shouldn't say because my office, my current company did have, I say did because the office closed because they're like, no one uses this, but they did have a ping pong table and some beanbags. And I will tell you that if I worked there in the office, I would have bet, like, I mean, even the 2 days I was in the office, I worked in the beanbag pretty much the whole time. So I did enjoy sitting in the but Isaac knows I like to work laying down. So that was actually ideal for me.
We got to get a big Kirby beanbag for you.
I know, folks, our dream. I don't know if we've talked about it on the pod, but we want a big pink beanbag with Kirby's face on it. Wouldn't that be perfect?
Wouldn't
and do you
that
know
be
that the
perfect?
internet doesn't have it? If you have seen a Kirby beanbag chair for an adult-sized Kirby beanbag
That's
chair,
the important part, because there are kitty-sized.
Please send it to us, DM it, email, makethatgamepodcast@gmail.com. Or if you have you're like, wow, I'm now inspired to make this, please take that idea. I don't need it. Take it, sell it to me.
Yes. Yeah. We'll buy it. We'll buy it from your Etsy store. We'll do what it takes.
Yeah, so I think you're right that a video game, a game developer union would probably be the answer to most of these. Now, the other thing is just so in the example of Stardew Valley, that was designed completely alone.
That was just pure
wild
passion.
Wild. When I read that, I was like, are you I had no idea. That blew my mind. And but he suffered in other ways, I think. And
yeah, that a union would not have helped with.
Exactly. And so I think my message to all the game devs out there is just be kind to yourself.
Yes, please.
Be kind to yourself. We want all the cool indie games to exist. We want your games to make it into this world, but we also want you to be okay.
Please, yes.
That's why Isaac's going very slow on his game, right?
Yep. That's the sole reason why.
But yeah. I mean, that's kind of why you didn't go into game development, right?
Yeah. Well,
as a career,
I found a job opportunity that was in game development, and then that kind of set me on an irreversible path. In some sense. Yes. Oh, yes. Some of it has to do with compensation. I will say.
Oh well, yeah.
By current industry. Yes, if I had a union, if there was a union that I could switch over to working in video games, that could guarantee similar compensation to what I've got now. It's just hard to. It's just hard. It's very hard to downgrade the amount of money, and that's
a whole other discussion.
That's a whole other discussion.
I will say that, I
which
personally
unions would help with, as we talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
I personally left the film industry very early on because I just didn't like. I didn't like the system of it. I didn't like the long days. I mean, yes. And I wasn't in a union at the time, so I was mostly just a PA. And I don't even know if I think I worked 1 or 2 union projects. That's the thing too, is you can't, there's some situations where you can't work, if you're in a union, you can't work non-union projects.
That makes sense.
And so union projects usually have more budget because you have to pay more for union people. And so that creates an interesting dynamic as well. But I think we actually had a union actor on one of the student films I worked on, which was pretty cool. Anyway, there's a lot of complex stuff going on, but I left because I just was I don't like the long days. I don't like the egos. I don't know. I feel like everyone's just sucking up to everyone all the time. Just didn't like it. So I can relate to the system being weird.
Yes. And actually, I read a retrospective, or maybe retrospective isn't the right word, but it was an article that basically took some of the biggest indie darlings studios and broke down how they are exactly like what you just described, where there's egos. A lot of them are built around big name people who made it big and were able to start their own studios, basically, that aren't up to AAA funding level, but they're still indie, and because they're built around this one character, basically, it has all the messiness that building something around one person has. I guess, I don't know, have we about covered it?
I think so. I hope everyone enjoyed this kind of dive into more game industry, I guess.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of a deviation, but again, I think it's inherently tied to game design because we talk about all these cool ideas, but I think it's important to recognize what goes into making any of these ideas a reality.
And here's also another important thing to say. If you do work in the video game industry and you feel that we have misrepresented in some way, please contact us, let us know. We will issue corrections. We will walk back our words.
I mean, honestly, if you want to come on the pod
and talk about it in a more nuanced, less ignorant fashion, please.
But I don't think we're too ignorant.
Us.
I've read 70% of a book about it. So
that's true. And I've existed on the periphery for quite a long time.
I
Even
watched
though
the
I've never actually
show.
engaged.
I watched the show Mythic Quest, so
Oh,
I
that
think I know what
counts.
I'm talking about.
Mythic Quest, and I've watched Code Monkey.
Perfect. We're
Co-
super knowledgeable. But yeah. Yeah, so totally. We would love to have like someone come on the pod and talk about this. That'd be really cool. All right, well, if that's all set then, it means that we're on our final and my favorite round, the rapid fire round.
Yes, we are. I've got the clock ready.
Oh, wow, you're so ready to go.
Yes,
so the
I
rapid
am.
fire round, we have to generate 3 random words. We have 5 minutes to come up with a game idea based on those 3 words. We need the idea. We need the title. We need to have fun with it. And we actually need to finish in 5 minutes. We actually had one of our first losses last week.
Yeah,
But
we
it was
lost
last
and
week,
we didn't
right?
know what
Yeah.
to do with it.
Whew. Oh, and we said we'd come up with what we'd do when we lost and we didn't. So hopefully
We did
win.
not discuss. We did not talk about this offline to
No,
use
we
corporate
forgot.
lingo.
So we need to okay, sorry, just really quick, that corporate lingo never makes sense to me because I'm always online. That's how I work. What is offline? And
Nobody knows.
I think it has to do with phones probably, but anyway, to me, whenever someone's like, let's talk about this offline, I'm like, where? Like, I work remote. I don't know. Anyway, that's just a sidebar. Okay. Are you ready for 3 words?
I am, and I'm going to press go in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. Part. Initiative.
Okay.
Scatter.
Part, initiative, scatter.
Yes.
Okay, part and scatter immediately works
Puzzle.
together. Wait.
No? That's what I thought of. I thought of puzzle.
Oh, okay. I thought you were correcting one of my words. I thought I misheard a
No,
word.
I was just saying you said it works together, and I said puzzle.
Okay.
I saw it working together. That's
that
okay.
could also work. So when initiative made me think of Dungeons and Dragons, which made me think of turn-based game. So part and scatter, I was thinking like the enemies are robots, and when you destroy them, their parts scatter all over the place. So it's like purely like a visual effect. Brings us into the aesthetic, into the game.
What if let's take the robot part scatter initiative, but let's bring in the Animal Crossing guy who is like, I broke my item, find these pieces for me.
Who is that guy?
I don't know. The guy, he's like a pelican. He rushes up on the shore.
Yeah.
So like you destroy a robot, the parts go everywhere. Now it's your job to find the correct parts for something specific.
Oh, okay. Okay, so like you have a task, you need like a gizmo, an actuator, and 3 springs.
But
and
in order to get them out of the
destroy...
robot, you have to destroy the robot, and then the parts go like literally everywhere, and then you're on a quest to find those pieces.
Okay, so I think the find the robot, destroy the robot, and then find the pieces from the robot might be adding too many steps.
Okay,
I think if
thought
they
it
just
was fun.
because then you're just doing hide and seek twice.
Well, the robot, I didn't think you'd have to look really hard to find a robot to destroy.
Oh, so like you get like the quest, and then a robot just walks up to you.
Yeah, like I'm just thinking
yes.
there's like a lot of robots.
Okay.
And then you'd have like a Sheikah sensor type situation to find the right pieces.
Okay. Yes.
We don't have to like it. You can
I'm
do your idea.
I'm just trying to think of it. I'm like hitting like the game designer, like, would I have fun playing this? And it just feels like busy work step where like Sheikah sensor to find a robot that has a spring and then destroy the robot with a spring.
No.
That seems like
that's
enough
not how
of a process.
No, that's not how I imagined it. Like there's just robots everywhere. And you march up to one and you go like bam, bam, bam with your initiative because it's going to be like an RPG because of the initiative.
Yes. Yeah.
So you
roll
do
for
bam,
initiative.
bam. You've got your team or whatever. Bam, bam, bam. Then the robot explodes into like 70 parts.
Yes.
So like you don't have to find one that has your specific part. It's like almost guaranteed it will have one. But like, yeah. So like there's no find. Like the robot is there. The find part is the parts after. Does that make it better? So like it's not like find robot, destroy robot, find parts. It's like fight robot, find parts. It's 2 steps, not 3.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
here's an alternate layer.
Okay.
If this is theming. The battles that like these are highly mobile robots, and maybe you're like fighting like on them.
Okay.
Like you're almost climbing on them. So like you play a mission, which is like you're at the robot already. Like you start the mission, you're looking for like certain things. You need to destroy the robot. The robot is like flying or marching or swimming around in an area, and then as you defeat it, do damage to it, pieces fly off as it's moving, and then you go into exploring
like
the area.
Yeah, I like
to
that.
collect the parts. That I think makes more sense.
I like riding the robots. I'm down for that. All right, how much time do we have left?
We have 35 seconds, so we better come up with a name. Because that's good gameplay. I feel like we've nailed down the gameplay.
The first name I came up with was Robot Chicken, because you're standing on a like I see it like playing chicken in the water, but you're riding robots. But that's already a thing.
Yeah, that's a TV show, but we could use it. Okay, well, Robot
My Robot.
Gear Harvest.
Gear Harvest. Okay.
Gear
that's
Harvest.
It.
Boom. With 6 seconds left on the clock. Gear Harvest.
Gear Harvest. We had to stick with it because we can't.
we didn't have to stick with it.
We did because we can't lose because we don't know what happens.
That's
if
true.
We do.
You're right. We had to stick with it. We had to win. We had to win no matter what.
All right. Are you ready?
We don't know what lose means.
We don't know. Are you ready for our next 3 words?
I am. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Tube.
Okay.
Consolidate. Architecture.
Oh,
architecture always brings me back to the Tartarian situation.
Yeah, I also immediately thought about the Tartarians. Does that episode have Tartarian in the title? Can people reference back to it? If we say the Tartarian episode, does that mean anything for SEO?
Here, why don't you talk about the game idea, and I'm gonna find out what episode that is.
Okay. All right. So, consolidate architecture. What was the first word?
Tube.
So that makes me think of designing a mail system for a city using that tube system. All of the tubes consolidate into the post office, and you want to consolidate as many tubes as possible to make things more efficient. Like if you can have one tube that splits off into multiple other tubes, then that has certain pros and cons versus another thing. So like I'm thinking that this is like an infrastructure builder like Railroad Tycoon or SimCity, etc. But you're specifically designing the tube mailing system, and you make choices like above ground, below ground, one
so
big
it's like
tube.
It's like pneumatic tubes, like at the bank or whatever. Okay, cool. I like this.
Across an entire city. And I want to call it Tube to You.
Tube to You? We can work.
No.
I mean, I see where you're going. I see why you said it.
Not good? No? Okay. All right. I mean, it could be Tube Tycoon.
It could be totally tubular.
Totally tubular. I'm willing to go with that one because we've got the game. We've got the name. That was 3 minutes and 7 seconds left. We nailed that one.
And I have the episode. Yeah, it is episode 46. City building is easy.
That was actually a super popular one.
Because it's great.
Split the curtains a little.
Yeah, to look behind the scenes. That's one of our top episodes.
The analytics on that one were like people really liked that one. I don't know specifically why. I don't know if we hit some kind of SEO magic with the title, but we didn't even refer to Tartarians in it, and we didn't get those conspiracy nuts.
So maybe we did in the description, which is part of SEO.
Maybe.
So anyway, if you are interested in apparently one of our more popular episodes, check out episode 46, City Building is Easy.
Yeah, maybe people just took it as a challenge. They were like, what? This is ridiculous.
City building is
what could they possibly talk about?
That's like, no. Anyway, all right. Well, that was a great game. Love Totally Tubular. We are on to our final game of the day. Are you ready?
I am. And I'm going to go in 3, 2, 1, go.
This is interesting. Offensive.
Okay.
Shower. River. So we've got 2 water features happening in one game. I don't know. Shower, river. I mean, it could be waterfall.
Okay.
Waterfall be?
So.
Don't go chasing waterfalls? Maybe you are chasing waterfalls? Sorry, go ahead.
My thought immediately was that you are a very dirty, smelly creature of some sort that like likes to be smelly, and you have to dodge bathing effectively. You have
Okay,
to
I kind
keep
of
your
like that
stank.
because the stank is offensive, but not to you.
Yeah.
But like that's the part that's offensive, and then so maybe it's like a puzzle platformer.
Yeah, puzzle platformer where each level will have a series of water features that will wash off your stank. Maybe you have a certain amount of stank that effectively acts as a health bar or like a stank bar. So like you can survive going under a waterfall for a certain amount of time. It's just it will wash stank away, but you have to maintain a certain level of offensiveness. Which gives you some interesting choices of like how to navigate certain levels.
I think you have to maintain a certain level or you like completely lose. Like that's how it's like game over. And then if you but you can also get like higher points based on like how much stink you've conserved.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so you just have to navigate like the levels by avoiding as much washing features as possible. And like there could be areas like trash piles where you can regain your stank.
Yep. Like that'd just be like a health bar, right? But like
exactly.
It's a stink bar. I like
we're just theming the health bar and like the obstacles.
This is good. All right, I think we should call it Lil Stink.
Lil Stink?
Lil
All right.
Stink.
Boom. 3 minutes and 3 seconds left.
Wow.
Lil Stink.
Lil Stink we did fast, but I liked it.
Yeah. Sometimes we get some good ones. And then sometimes we have to talk until the last second.
We just have to really work on it, and we don't even know if it was a great game at the end. But that's okay because it's rapid fire.
The game that we ultimately came up with, I have full confidence in it as an idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I can't remember it anymore.
Folks, once the rapid fire round is over, memory, head empty, no thoughts.
We just lose it. I will say, again, to peek behind the curtain, Isaac has often been like, what games should we pitch? I'm like,
oh, yeah.
I don't know.
When I have to write the copy for every episode, I have to ask or
like,
listen to the
happened,
episode.
And then if I haven't edited it yet, I'll be like, I don't know.
Yeah. So hopefully this time I'll remember that I pitched a game about monster fighting.
You almost forgot. What did I pitch a game about, Isaac?
You pitched a game about dates and setting up dates.
All right, you did remember.
And it was a vibe check.
Okay, perfect.
And then the thing that we talked about was the game industry being bad for people.
Wow, so that is a whole wrap-up of our episode in case you wanted that. If you want to find us on social media, you can. We're at Make That Game Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. I will say our TikTok, pretty good time when I remember to post. So you gotta follow to get those lightning bolts of content. And then you can also email us, makethatgamepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@makethatgame. And you can find us on Twitch, twitch.tv/makethatgame. And if you heard a game today that you think has to exist, we encourage you to get out there and make that game.